What drew you to focus upon TPD insurance?
Okay, so the TPD insurance claims that we do are through the superannuation that people have, and basically we help people out who've been unable to return to work that they're trained or experienced in because of an illness or an injury. My personal background was more to do with motor vehicle accidents, work accidents, that type of claim. And then we started doing more of the TPD claims, and we just found that it was a lot more rewarding to be involved with somebody who's had a life-changing event that's forced them out of their employment, and then we're able to advise them of their ability to make the sort of claim that we do. And it's very rewarding to be involved in that type of work.
I could imagine, because you're actually changing someone's horrible experience into something, transforming it into something empowering and great, really.
We sort of like to say that at Aussie Injury Lawyers, our purpose is to help everyday Aussies reclaim their future. And I suppose a good example of that is one of the earlier claims that we did when we were, which is now, quite a few years ago now, but we came across a client who had been unable to work and had gone onto a disability support pension, and that person had been on the support pension for probably about 5 or 6 years. And it was a mental health related issue that forced her to have to stop work. When we met her, we were just investigating what we might be able to do for her, and she didn't even realise that she had a superannuation insurance policy that covered her for exactly what had happened, and the amount of money involved was around $800,000.
Wow.
So she'd been struggling on the disability support pension for all of those years, not even realising she had this claim available. So that was a great day to be able to tell her that she could do a claim, and even better when it was awarded and she received her money.
Yes, certainly living life on the pension is not a rewarding life in the slightest. It's very, very hard to make ends meet, and then to be gifted with $800,000. That's amazing.
It was really life-changing for her. And you've touched on an interesting point. A lot of people that we do help feel that they would be jeopardising their pension or jeopardising their situation by doing a claim, and that really isn't the case. The important thing to realise is that, for example, for the lady with the $800,000, her money, once the insurance claim was approved, the $800,000 went into her superannuation fund, in with her other money. So basically, because she is TPD, by definition, she's able to withdraw some or all of that money immediately. But what we also do is, whenever we do a claim for anybody, we highly recommend that they get financial advice. And in her case, because of the amount of money involved, it was very important that she withdraw those funds in a way that was strategic to obviously look after her status on her pension, which she didn't want to jeopardise, and also, to minimise tax effects and things like that.
Yeah. So do you work with an accountant, or do you have somebody that works in your business, or?
Well, we're not financial planners, so we're lawyers. So we're not able to give that advice, but we do have a number of financial advisors that we refer to. And so what we always say to a client, whether a client's getting $20,000, $100,000 or $1 million, it's important to know what the effect will be and what is the smart strategy to look after, making sure that the tax effect is minimised, making sure that pensions aren't jeopardised, things like that.
Absolutely.
So we have some really good financial planners that we work with who give that advice to the clients. Some clients then go on to have a relationship with the financial planner to do investments and things like that. But most of the time it's just getting that snapshot of advice. If you've been awarded this money, it's gone into your superannuation, which is great news. What should you do with it to make sure that your situation is the best that it can be.
So it goes into your superannuation, but you are able to access it?
Yeah, so the way it works is, if, for example, somebody had $50,000 in their own superannuation fund, and they had an insurance policy in their TPD for $200,000. The mechanics of it are, we would make a claim for the $200,000 insurance payment. If it's approved, the $200,000 goes into your superannuation, so you go from having $50,000 to $250,000 overnight.
Yes.
And then basically, because of your status, subject to obtaining some medical evidence, you can withdraw any of that $250,000 as you see fit, and that's where the advice comes in. So there's no tax effect on the insurance payment,
yes,
but you have to consider the taxation position on withdrawal.
Yes.
So the advice I always say to people is, it's impossible for you not to be better off for doing it, and also at the end of the day, if you go from having 50,000 in your super to 250,000 in your super, then you're obviously better off. If it's unsuccessful, you're no worse off. You're not jeopardising anything.
Yeah.
Another question I suppose that comes up often is, what can people do afterwards? Some people have said, they didn't want to do a claim because they thought they might want to return to work in some form again. That's fine. You can actually do the claim. If you qualify, be paid. You don't have to never work again, in other words. Yeah.
Is it, do you find that people actually leave it in their superannuation? Because then would they leave a sizable amount in their superannuation?
Yeah, I mean, the options are pretty much endless. You can leave the whole lot in, you can take the whole lot out, and everybody just has their own personal circumstances. It depends on what else is going on in their life and what their demands and needs are. So, but the good thing is that they're in control to make those decisions.
Yeah. So with these recent floods that were in Brisbane, I could imagine some other people might be looking for TPD, might be needing to rest upon their TPD.
Well, it's probably a situation where people sometimes, it takes something, whether they've had some sort of a financial catastrophe or something like that, to actually prompt them to go and find out. And,
yes,
and I suppose my advice would be that if you have had to stop working because of an illness or an injury, no matter how it's caused,
yes,
you should definitely look at where you stand so far as what options you have available to you to make an insurance claim.
Of course.
And getting in touch with us, the process we have is, the first thing we'll do is find out exactly when the period of cover is relevant and how much insurance you had. After that, if you choose to go further with it, wonderful. If you just have that knowledge, I think you're in a much better position.
How long have you been focusing on TPD?
We formed Aussie Injury Lawyers in February 2020, and basically we've just grown from there. So things have been progressing very well, and we've been able to help many people recover their insurance claims, and been very rewarding.
Is that a focus for many people? I'd never heard of TPD insurance before encountering you.
Yeah. Well, the amazing thing I think is that so many people don't realise what they can do, and we're talking to people literally every day and bringing their awareness to the fact that they can actually make an insurance claim. And that's what we like to do, is to give that knowledge. People can then investigate how it affects them and go from there.
Thanks very much for that, Nigel.
Thanks for having us on board.